Alright, so I'm going to be making a Java server, a LAN server, with my Byrd engine with very little hassle. It's extremely easy using the Byrd engine to make a quick server. I'll show you, call this a server demo project. We're just going to jump straight in um, because I like to make these things fast. So first thing we did was we right clicked and we created a new project, or you can press this button here, right clicking on the server, the project you just made, go to properties, and this is how we put the Byrd engine inside of the demo. If you haven't seen that video already, so Java build path, we're going to click on add jars if you put the Byrd engine inside of here, but if you didn't, say your Byrd engine is on your desktop, you can do external jars, go to your desktop or wherever yours is. Mine is in my desktop Java folder, so I'm going to press OK, and then when it loads, it should pop up right here. Dun-dun-dun. There we go. OK, and if you did it right, Java jar should be right there. So now we're going to make a package inside the source folder. So right click the source folder, new package, and you can call this anything. I don't stick with normal conventions like I should, but since this is just a demo, here you go. Class, we're going to make a server and a client. So we're going to make two classes here, the server class and the client class. And we're going to make the server class first. So the server class, we are going to say extends bframe. And the only reason I'm giving it a frame is so that it won't automatically turn off after it's done running the code. It'll stay on until we close it. So you can either type all of this in, public server, super, and then I'm going to fill this in and I'll explain what it does after. Server 800 by 600 false. So what this does is now when I make it, it's going to make a frame like this, and instead of saying resource blah blah blah, it's going to say server. 800 by 600 is how big it will be, and false is it's not resizable, which isn't even that big of a deal because we're not even going to be using it. This is literally just so that we can end the application whenever we want. So for the server, after you've done this, we're going to need to bring in the public static void main string array args. So this is what's run whenever you click server and start. So whenever you start your application, it looks for this type of method, and once it finds this, it's going to do this. So it's going to make a new server once we do this. So for our server, to actually have a server, we create what's called a nest. So we say nest, nest. That's all we have to do there. And we can import the nest. Another quick way to do this is if you press shift plus it's control shift O. So I'm gonna move over, control plus shift plus O, and it will automatically do it for you. I know I just put that there for everyone to see. So yeah, once we create the nest, under the super here, we're gonna say nest equals new nest. Now we have some options. We can leave it as it is, or actually nest dot build. Yeah, okay. So we have some options when we create our nest. We can add a I think, yeah. So we can add a save location if we want to make accounts, but we're not going to make accounts just for the sake of time. I'll show you how to do that in another video. I'll go more in depth on the servers. This is just how to do it, very quick and very basic. So nest.build nest, and it's going to ask for a port. So we're just going to choose one. I'm going to do 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. And the nest listener. So this is what we have to do now. Next to extends bframe, we want the server to implement. So we're going to say implements nest listener with a capital N, and then control shift O what I did here, Control Shift O, so it does that. And then here we're going to add unimplemented methods. We're going to hover over it and add unimplemented methods, and it should pop up with these methods here. And now for our nest listener, we're just going to say this, since this whole class is a nest listener. So what nest listener does is it gives us this on object received, on connection lost, and on account connected. So what we want to do is when we build the nest, it's going to start a listener for accounts. And when we get an account, we're going to get either an account or client. So because we're not using accounts, this is irrelevant, but clients are just the socket information. So if we want to turn on object receive and object loss, what we're going to do is we're going to say connection dot start, and then user client is this user client, and then listener is this nest listener. And so what happens with the nest listener now is we have connected a client, and so whenever the client leaves, on connected lost will tell you which client left, and then we have on object received, so whenever the client sends us an object, we'll get it immediately. So now we're going to make the client the same way we made the server. We're going to do a quick setup for the client. It's going to say client extends bframe, and I'm just going to actually copy and paste this code here, and I'll change it up so it's not server. Instead of server, it is client, because client, and we don't need a nest, so we don't need that code there. And now client, boom, Control Shift O, add default serial. Okay, so now we have a client, and we're going to do almost the exact same thing. Instead of creating a nest, which is a server, we're going to implement client listener. So this is the listener that the client implements, and it's going to give us some methods of its own. So it's going to give us on error, which I'm not going to talk about in this video. Those chirps are basically just errors that can happen if you're using the login feature, which we aren't using, so we're probably not going to get an error. On connect, so when we connect to the server, this is going to happen. On object receive, on connection loss. So we're not going to do we're just going to connect and send an object. So to connect, here's what you got to do. You just do connection dot, and here's where things could have changed. So if we were doing accounts, you could do login, create account, but if you're not doing accounts, we can just do join string IP, and since this is on my computer, I'm just going to use localhost, but if it was a computer nearby, you could just take the IP off of that. The port was 5678, and the client listener is this. So what happens is it starts up a thread that is going to try to connect, and if it does connect, it's going to on connect. And so on connect, we want to send the server some love. So we're going to make a new class. I'm going to show you real quick how easy it is to send an entire class through. The only thing the class needs, every class that you want to send through requires serializable. So you're going to have to say implements serializable. There we go. All right, easy peasy. So that's what this little, oh gosh, what is that? Okay, well, tell you what, in a second we'll fix that. Public Apple. And so, you know, anything you want here, I'm gonna send through a private string of a color. Say the apple has a color. All right, and this will create my getter and setter for me. And string color. So when I create an apple, I require a color, and when I get that color, I'm going to set the color to the color. Yeah, that sounded kind of confusing, but this code should be easy to read. So basically, whenever I'm starting the apple, I require a color. Once I get that color, I'm going to set this color to this color. All right, so I'm going to do on connect. We have the server's information here, so I'm going to say server dot send object, and I'm going to send it a new apple, and I'm gonna say a red apple. All right, and now for the server on received, this is gonna fire off once it gets the apple. The apple is gonna be the object. So here's a quick way to check what kind of object you're getting. So I'm going to say if object is the instance of an apple, then we're going to do this code. So since it is an instance of apple, we're going to say apple a equals, and we're going to cast the apple or the object into an apple, since we know it's an apple because of the instance of. So now we can say system.out.println a.color. And remember, color can be anything, so it's not just going to print out red. It's going to print out red because it's reading it. So let's run it. Start up the server. Normally when you start a server, it's going to ask you if you'd like to connect to the network, but I've done this a million times just to like practice. So there's the server for you, and now the client. Boom. So the client connected, and if we look through the client here, it says connected. So once it connects to the server, it sent the apple, and the apple was apple's color, if you remember, was red. And so that's how you can do it. The connection error was just the on connection lost. It gave you a connection error. But yeah, that's how you make a server. Extremely simple. I'm going to make another video that's more a little longer, and definitely more in depth. It'll cover the accounts. It'll cover the errors, and I'll probably make a demo of some cool UI that you can plug onto this. So thanks for watching. Hope it helped.